Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and here are the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Nifty hits a 52-week high and comes within 30 points of the record high. Sensex gains nearly 500 points. Nifty Bank and Mid-Cap Index hit a record high before giving up some gains in late trade. Nvidia reports record sales and profit in the third quarter. Growth outlook also beats estimates, soothing frayed nerves on Wall Street, dispels fears over AI valuation, at least for now. United States approves the possible sale of Javelin missiles and Excalibur projectiles to India worth nearly $93 million. This comes just days after India signed a deal to buy cooking gas from the US, accounting for 10% of LPG imports in 2026. M&M targets organic growth of 15 to 40% across businesses till 2030, aims to be the world's fastest growing SUV brand and the top light commercial vehicle brand. Mahindra Holidays invests 1,000 crore rupees to foray into leisure hospitality. Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol says India sits at the heart of their global strategy as it brews its 500th store in the country in partnership with the Tatas, highlighting that US tariffs has not impacted sourcing as India has a localized supply chain. That's an exclusive. Supreme Court refuses to prescribe timelines for governors and the President of India to clear bills passed by state legislatures, signals limited judicial scrutiny for prolonged, unexplained and indefinite delay in granting assent to bills.
मैं नीतीश कुमार सत्यनिष्ठा से प्रतिज्ञान करता हूं।
JDU Supremo Nitish Kumar takes oath as the Chief Minister of Bihar for the 10th time after NDA's landslide victory. 26 other MLAs, including BJP Samrat Chaudhary and Vijay Kumar Sinha, sworn in as well. Prime Minister Modi, Home Minister Shah and top NDA leaders attend the ceremony. Any peace plan on Ukraine must take Europe and Kiev on board, say EU officials. This after US and Russian officials draft a peace plan which will require Ukraine to give up some territory and downsize its military. 28 people were killed in Ukraine after Russian strikes yesterday. At least 32 killed in Gaza in 24 hours in Israel's latest violation of the US-brokered ceasefire. Dozens injured as per Gaza's media office. Over 280 have been killed and more than 650 injured in nearly 400 Israeli violations since the October 10th ceasefire. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening, but straight to the day's market action. Sensex and Nifty hit 52-week highs after a steady session on Dalal Street. In fact, the Nifty was just 30 points away from its record high during intraday trade. Both indices did give up some gains in late trade. Nifty Bank and the Mid-Cap Index hit a new record high before seeing some profit booking. The Mid-Cap underperformance kept the market breadth in favor of declines. Surbi Upadhyay is here with all of the action from Dalal Street. Surbi?
Let's dissect what really transpired today. So today, if you talk about the leading sectors, then defense, infra, oil and gas for sure, thanks to Reliance, capital markets, autos, and even banks. Banks didn't lead from the front, but they did chip in, and I'll get to more of this in just a bit. The lagging sectors today, real estate, pharma, healthcare, and PSU banks. Let's see how this translates into actual Nifty stocks. So Nifty gainers, Reliance Industries, like I'm saying, and the other heavy hitter, HDFC Bank, contributed quite nicely. Axis Bank was up and about, and auto stocks had a pretty good session, specifically some of the two-wheeler names like Eicher Motors as well as Bajaj Auto. Both those stocks up between 1 and Eicher, the Nifty winner, actually going up to almost 3% gains. The losers then, some consumer stocks like Asian Paints, Titan seeing profit taking. Lever was also down, and some of the tech names that did very well yesterday, they cooled off today. So names like Infosys and HCL Tech, to name a few. Now let's come to the mid-cap part of the market, and that was the only grudge, so to speak. Because mid-caps underperformed large caps, the index was more or less flat, and the advance decline ratio was also negative, more declining stocks than advancing stocks in the market today. So let's talk about the movers, the big listings or the recent listings. Today was a day to come down to gravity. So Growth, second day running, managed to see a cut, 6-7% down on Growth. Physicswala was also slightly lower. Hyundai had a bit of a rough session, 3% down on Hyundai Motor. Biocon, and like I said, IT, not just large cap, but even mid-cap IT, which was sizzling yesterday. Today was some profit taking on names like L&T Technologies. There was Coforge and Intellect Design. Let's talk about the gainers on the upside. Today, Mahindra and Mahindra, the group had its investor day. So some of those group stocks were really surging. M&M Financial, for instance, 4-5% higher. Mahindra Holidays, which is also getting into the leisure and hospitality space now. That stock was up about 3.5% as well. Beyond that, there was Radico, Khaitan, Network surging thanks to the strong performance from Nvidia. And then some other names like Canara, Robeco, AMC, 9% higher on this one. And even IEX had a good session, 4% up.
Right, so many thanks for those details. Now, chip maker Nvidia quelled fears of an AI spending bubble with a strong third-quarter performance that surpassed Wall Street's expectations. Net income rose 65%, riding on the back of a 66% year-on-year increase in its crucial business data center sales. The world's most valuable company's guidance for the fourth quarter sales was also stronger than what the street had factored in. Hormaz Fatakia is here with all of those details. Hormaz?
Too good to be true. That's not possible. Mano ya na mano. You can use all of these phrases when you look at Nvidia's results this quarter, but the numbers don't lie. It is what it is. Now, yet another blockbuster quarter from the world's most valuable company, and markets across the globe are breathing a sigh of relief. Now, we all know Nvidia's results were a beat on expectations, but that's not it. Here's a bigger picture. Now, for the first 9 months of the year, Nvidia has reported sales of close to $150 billion, profits of close to $80 billion, and for the fourth quarter it has made a projection of $65 billion in sales despite the issues in China. Now, if this guidance holds, the company could well end the year with sales of over $200 billion and profits in excess of $100 billion. But how big is too big? Here are some illustrations to show how big Nvidia actually is. For the first 9 months of this fiscal, Nvidia's profit is $77 billion. Now compare that to the sales reported by its closest competitors, Intel and AMD, for the same time frame. That is close to $60 billion. This shows that Nvidia is earning more than two of its closest rivals put together are managing to sell. Now that is some statement. Now, more than the results, the global markets are also breathing a sigh of relief from Jensen Huang's remarks. He mentioned on the earnings call about the AI bubble, saying that from their vantage point, they see something very different. And when the CEO of the world's largest AI chip supplier says all is well, the market surely takes note of it. Nvidia recently hit $5 trillion in market cap. You heard that right, $5 trillion. Now, the journey from 4 trillion to 5 trillion happened very quickly. It took only 79 trading sessions. We hit 2 trillion in Feb of 24, went to 3 trillion in June of 24. Then we had a bit of a sell-off. Then we hit 4 trillion in July of this year. And then we hit $5 trillion very recently. Now, the last time when the stock had hit $4 trillion, we tried analyzing what if Nvidia was a country. Today, we tell you what if Nvidia was a stock market on its own. After a brief post-listing, post-5 trillion slump, the market cap is now below that $5 trillion mark. But even at 4.5 trillion, Nvidia is only smaller than the stock markets of China, Japan, Hong Kong, India, and of course the United States. Here's another illustration of how big Nvidia is. Out of the 13 quarters at the fourth quarter of FY23, Nvidia had sales of around $6.5 billion. Now, for the current ongoing fourth quarter of FY26, the sales projection is $65 billion. That's a 10x jump in just 3 years. The exponential growth shows up in the stock price as well. Between 2020 and 2024, Nvidia stock has doubled or even tripled in value in 4 out of the 5 years. Even this year, the stock has more than doubled from its tariff lows, but such was the damage that even today the year-to-date gain is only 35%. CLSA has retained its high conviction outperform rating on the stock with a target of $270. Despite this surge, only 1 out of the 79 analysts that track the stock has a sell rating on it. If CLSA's target is higher, there are targets even higher, as high as $350 on Nvidia. So in this battle of David versus Goliath, the Goliath keeps getting bigger and better, and the Davids around it are also cheering the results with share price moves of their own. Nvidia has categorically stated that the AI boom is here to stay, and it wants to have the largest share of that pie, one chip at a time.
So in Nvidia, they're getting bigger and better. Thank you, Harmas, for those details. Now, the United States approved the possible sale of Javelin missiles and Excalibur projectiles worth nearly $93 million to India. The Excalibur deal is for $47 million and the Javelin deal is for $46 million. The U.S. said that the package includes 216 Excalibur artillery rounds and 100 FGM-148 Javelin missiles. This comes after India signed a deal to buy cooking gas, indicating a potential easing of trade tensions. Federal Reserve officials were at odds during their October meeting over cutting interest rates. According to written records of the meetings, the officials were also divided on whether the central bank should cut rates next month. The minutes indicated that most participants felt that further rate cuts were warranted, but not necessarily in December. However, participants does not denote voters. There are 19 participants at the meeting, but only 12 vote. And speaking of the Fed, U.S. President Donald Trump said that he would love to fire Jerome Powell. Addressing the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum in Washington, the president also said that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent needs to work on Powell to quickly lower rates, indicating that the Treasury Secretary's job depends on it.
Mortgage rates are down despite the Fed. You got to work in this guy. He's got some real mental problems. No, he's something wrong with him. It's just sweet. I'd be honest, I'd love to fire his ass. He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent, and he should be sued for spending $4 billion to build a little building. I'm building a ballroom that's going to cost a tiny fraction of that, and it's bigger than the whole thing put together. You got to work at him, Scott. The only thing Scott's blowing it on is the Fed. Because the Fed, the rates are too high, Scott. And if you don't get it fixed fast, I'm going to fire your ass, okay?
Shares of pharma major Zydus Life Sciences rose as the company onboarded 3 investment bankers for a 5,000 crore rupee fundraise. As per a Money Control report, they are Jefferies, JP Morgan and IIFL Capital. Money Control has also reported that the funds will be raised via qualified institutional placement, which is likely to be launched at the start of 2026. Infosys' 18,000 crore rupee share buyback opened today, making it the company's largest buyback to date. The buyback, priced at 1,800 rupees per share, will close on November 26th. Infosys aims to repurchase 10 crore fully paid-up equity shares. The company said the buyback is intended to return surplus funds to shareholders in line with its capital allocation policy. Promoters who hold just over 13% will not participate in the buyback. Investors continued to book profits in newly listed broking firm Grow, which fell 9% today. The stock, which had rallied nearly 90% since listing, has now slipped 18% in just 2 sessions. This amid stretched valuations and shorting by traders. The stock's market capitalization now stands at 98,000 crore rupees. The Mahindra Group hosted its annual Investor Day. The conglomerate is targeting organic growth of 15 to 40% across businesses till 2030. The group aims to be the world's fastest growing SUV brand and the top light commercial vehicle brand. Mahindra Holidays is foraying into leisure hospitality by creating a wholly owned subsidiary with an investment of 1,000 crore rupees. CNBC TV 18 spoke to the CEOs of all Mahindra Group companies, and that special show will be broadcast at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. Representatives from the tourism and hospitality sector are with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman for pre-budget consultations. Sources say the sector has sought industry status, which has been a long-pending budget demand. They have also sought clarity on GST treatment, especially on how rates apply to room tariffs amid dynamic pricing. Single window clearance system for the hospitality sector is also one of the key demands. Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol has said that India is one of its fastest growing markets as it gears up to open its 500th store in the country. In an exclusive interview with CNBC TV 18, Niccol outlined their India growth plans. He said that they were in India building a coffee culture for the long term. Starbucks runs its India operations through a 50-50 venture with Tata Consumer Products. On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Supreme Court refuses to prescribe timelines for governors and the President of India to clear bills passed by state legislatures. More details on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The big national story today. JDU Supremo Nitish Kumar took oath as Bihar's chief minister for the 10th time after a landslide NDA victory in the assembly elections. The 74-year-old is now India's 8th longest-serving chief minister. 26 legislators, including BJP Samrat Chaudhary and Vijay Sinha, took oath as well. The contours of the new cabinet are yet to be formalized. A majority of the MLAs who took oath along with Nitish were from the BJP. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and top NDA leaders attended the oath ceremony at Patna's Gandhi Maidan. The Supreme Court has refused to prescribe timelines for governors and the President of India to clear bills passed by state legislatures. But the top court signaled limited judicial scrutiny for prolonged, unexplained and indefinite delay in granting assent to bills. This comes after a rare presidential reference was made to the court over its verdict in April, which imposed a 3-month deadline on dealing with bills passed by state assemblies. Ashmit Kumar is here with more on the court action. Ashmit, explain the Supreme Court's observations today and its implications.
Well, first up, it was in the month of April that a bench of the Apex Court itself had granted this order, had directed for a 3-month deadline to be imposed on the president as well as the governor. It is in response to that we had a presidential reference, which is in the nature of a question. The president is asking a question from the Supreme Court that can such a deadline be imposed by the Supreme Court on the president who happens to be a constitutional office bearer. Now, that was the question, among others, that was being dealt with by the Apex Court. And then, as a part of an opinion, today's the findings that the Supreme Court has given is an opinion. It is not binding on the government. It is only, it has a guiding force, but nonetheless, coming from a bench of the Supreme Court of no less than 5 judges, it does carry a significant amount of weight. Now, what does this opinion to the presidential reference say? Well, this opinion clarifies that as far as deadlines are concerned, timelines are concerned, that is simply not the court's power. It simply does not have the remit, the power, the jurisdiction, the scope to start telling the president and the governor that, look, this is a timeline within which you have to decide on bills that are being sent to you by state assemblies. That's one. But having said that, there are a number of caveats that the Supreme Court has given with respect to powers of the governor. All of this issue, of course, arose with a number of opposition-ruled states, the likes of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, raising the issue before the Apex Court that bills are being passed by the state assemblies, the governors are sitting on them indefinitely. To that end, this opinion by the Apex Court has clarified that, number one, the governor has 3 options. He can either agree, he can send the bill back to the state assembly or refer it to a president. What the Supreme Court today clarified is that the governor cannot sit on it indefinitely, cannot defeat the entire legislative exercise, that it is the cabinet, the elected government that needs to be in the driver's seat, that this is something that the governor cannot do. What the Supreme Court has also said, that as far as deciding of this granting of assent is concerned, to that end, while the Supreme Court says that no deadline can be prescribed, the Supreme Court also says in the same breath that there needs to be a decision by the governor in a reasonable period of time, leaving the door open that tomorrow, if there is a situation that a bill is being passed but is awaiting the governor's assent, the governor is sitting on it indefinitely. There is a window now available for opposition-ruled governments to actually come and approach the Apex Court. So clearly, the Supreme Court trying to do a balancing act, on one hand saying that no timelines can be prescribed, but also in the same breath saying that governors cannot sit on these bills that are being passed by the state assemblies indefinitely. They need to take a decision, and they need to do so in a reasonable period of time.
All right, Ashmit, many thanks for those details. Now, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in Tel Aviv on a 3-day visit to push for the long-pending free trade deal with Israel. He is leading a 60-member delegation to focus on deepening trade, investment flows and innovation partnerships. Abhimanyu Sharma reports from Tel Aviv.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is on an official visit to Israel. He's expected to meet Israel's Minister for Science and Technology as well as Israel's Minister for Economy Nir Barkat. In course of the next few days, there are B2B engagements expected between the Indian and the Israeli industry since a 60-member delegation from India from across several businesses is already present in Israel. There is also a likelihood that a potential FTA between India and Israel may also be discussed as part of the ongoing engagements. India is looking for more collaboration with Israel in several areas, particularly in areas of technology, innovation, wastewater treatment, and several possible joint ventures between both the sides. Now, several Indian companies are already invested in Israel and vice versa, and both the sides are looking to increase this engagement and possibly elevate this engagement by means of a free trade agreement between India and Israel.
I can assure you, friends, our first quarter growth was 7.8%. Our second quarter numbers are expected soon, will be about 7%. And I think at the end of the year, our year ends on 31st March 26, we will be growing at 7%, well above the world estimates.
Israel is a great startup nation, India is a great scale-up nation. So how do we, the real conversation was how do we combine the technological leverage that Israel has versus, and using that technology to do advanced manufacturing in India, to partner on AI and other advanced technologies, to look at sustainable things like sustainable areas of sustainability, like particularly in water, agriculture, and obviously energy transition.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.